Good morning, everyone. I'm honored to be here today alongside Honorable Stephen Lecce, Ministry of Energy and Mines, Mayor Oliver Chow, Gillies Gershon, President, CEO of Toronto Regional Board of Trade, and Leslie Gillinger, President and CEO of Independent Electricity System Operators, as well as Parliamentary Assistant Rudy Cruzzetto and Michelle Cooper, Member of Provincial Parliament for riding of Eglinton Lawrence. Our city is evolving rapidly. New development, expanding transit, and growing communities signal a vibrant tomorrow. But rapid growth comes with great responsibility, and we must ensure that our energy infrastructure keep pace with demands. As we transition to electricity vehicles, modern heating, and advanced energy industries, the need for reliability, clean electricity is more important than ever. That is why I'm pleased to be a part of the historic announcement the Government of Ontario is committed to forward-thinking resolutions that will strengthen Toronto power grid. Together, we planning today to power Toronto tomorrow. Now I will turn it over to Minister Lecce. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Thank you, sir. Okay. Well, good morning. It's wonderful to be here in the City of Toronto with my amazing parliamentary team, of course, with the Mayor. Your Worship, thank you for joining us this morning. I want to thank David Smith, who's been a hardworking representative for the people of Scarborough and his leadership in the Ministry of Energy and Mines. Michelle Cooper, this is the first official announcement for the newly elected member from Eglinton Lawrence. Thank you for your leadership here in Toronto. And of course, to the parliamentary assistant, to Rudy Cruzzetto, who's been leading the charge in this ministry well before I got here, doing the good work. And I want to also recognize the leadership of Leslie Gillinger from the IESO, our president and CEO, did a lot of work to get us to the finish line. And Gilles Gerson, who is the president, the CEO of the Toronto Regional Board of Trade, a wonderful partner as we build for the future. Now, today is about planning ahead, about doing the hard work to make sure Toronto has the energy infrastructure it needs, not just for today, but for decades to come. I want to tell you a bit about our challenge because make no mistake, Toronto is growing. The skyline is changing. Towers are rising, tracks are being laid, and neighborhoods are being transformed. And now that's a good thing. It's a sign of optimism in this city, a sign of confidence in Toronto's future. But it also brings with it a new challenge. How do we make sure the power is there when people need it? Toronto's electricity demand is projected to double by 2050. That's not just because we're building new homes or the Ontario line, it's because of the electrification of vehicles, of heating and industry. It's because this city is a magnet for talent and investment and economic growth. And while we're already building new generation right across Ontario, from net new nuclear to hydro and storage and renewables, we also need to get that clean electricity into this city. And while other governments across the land and the world struggle to keep pace, Ontario and the City of Toronto are planning for the future, planning for success that's grounded in forward-thinking solutions. Because if we don't plan ahead, the consequences are clear. A lack of transmission capacity limits our ability to build new homes. It delays major infrastructure like transit, and it puts thousands of jobs, billions of dollars of investment at risk. In today's global economy, we simply cannot afford to fall behind. Not when other jurisdictions are aggressively pursuing the same opportunities we are today. And that's why we're here today. And we're proud to announce that our government is taking the next step to advance a third electricity transmission line into the downtown Toronto to ensure that downtown core has the energy to grow and to thrive. Work that's based on more than a year of technical work, public engagement by the Ontario Independent Electricity Systems Operator, which has confirmed this third line will be essential to meeting future demand. Now, they've laid out three options, three potential routes to get it done. Each is designed to minimize land use in the city. There's an overland option using an existing transmission corridor. One option that uses an existing transmission corridor before going underground to reach the downtown, and another option that would run underwater through Lake Ontario. A third transmission line will do more than just keep lights on for the people of Toronto and Canada. It will improve the grid reliability. It ensures we can power new homes and businesses in transit. It also reduces our reliance on natural gas for electricity generation. It is part of our plan to prepare for the future retirement of the Portland's Energy Centre, which will be decommissioned when Ontario's system operator indicates the province and city no longer need its power. Now, while a final route has not been chosen, and it will in the months ahead, today's announcement moves us one step closer to getting shovels in the ground. Because really, unlike governments in the past that relied on this stopgap solution, short-term thinking, we are planning for growth today with solutions that will stand the test of time. It's why the IESO is launching another round of consultations with the city, with Indigenous communities, with the public, and key stakeholders. That feedback is going to inform a final recommendation this August to the province. Once that decision is made, we're going to be ready to move, recognizing that depending on the route, we're looking at construction of 7 to 10 years. And this transmission line is just one part of that solution. The IESO is also exploring complementary actions like more small-scale generation, be it rooftop solar or battery storage, and energy efficiency programs that help reduce peak demand. This project is one of the first being advanced through Ontario's new Integrated Energy Plan, which we're going to be releasing later this month. It will reflect our commitment to building not just for today, but for future generations to come. Too often, governments, kick these kind of decisions down the road until it's too late and the costs are much higher. Our government is acting ahead of time, planning proactively, because we know energy isn't just a service, it's the foundation for economic growth and for housing and for economic opportunity. Because powering a growing city like Toronto takes more than just promises. It takes planning, it takes partnership, and it takes leadership. And that's why we're here today. So with that, I want to turn it over to the Mayor of Toronto, who's been a great partner in this endeavor, Mayor Chow. Thanks so much.
Thank you. Thank you, Minister. Thank you for that introduction. Every person in Toronto depends on easy and affordable access to electricity. You wake up in the morning, flick on the light switch, make your coffee, power up your computer, check your phone. You're using power. Every day at peak demand, the City of Toronto consumes more than 4,700 megawatts of energy. That's 20% of the province's overall electricity demand. Our city is growing rapidly. Over the past 20 years, Toronto's population has grown by 35%. And as mayor, I know we're not stopping there. We have a young, diverse, and growing population. Toronto is building hundreds of thousands of homes, including 65,000 affordable homes by 2030. New homes need more electricity for our city. Toronto is Canada's economic engine, and every engine needs power. That is why today's announcement matters. A third transmission line will make sure Toronto has the energy it needs to power our homes, businesses, and transit. It is also an important step to reducing Toronto's emission, improving air quality, and building more towers. Improving access to clean electricity is a critical step as we work to phase out the natural gas plant at the Portlands. This new line will help power our transit system, the TTC's electric buses, the streetcars, the subways, including the new Ontario line, Eglinton Crosstown, and transit all across the city. It will also give us the power we need for Toronto to charge thousands of electric vehicles. Toronto is also Canada's financial capital. We are home to a vibrant film industry, arts, small businesses, advanced manufacturing, life sciences, and artificial intelligence. These businesses need power to grow and thrive. Experts estimate that Toronto electricity needs to double by 2050. That's a lot of power. power. New power lines can take up to a decade to build. Planning for that means we need to start right now. This may have to power those two. This announcement is an important step to keep Toronto's powered while we grow for the future. And I want to thank Minister Lecce, Premier Ford, and the Province of Ontario for your ongoing partnership as we work together to invest in Toronto. With that, I want to welcome CEO Giles Gershon of the Toronto Board of Trade to speak about the importance of this investment for Toronto's economy and growth. Giles?
Thank you, Mayor Chow, and congratulations, Minister. Thank you for having me here today for this very important announcement. It's a moment of promise and opportunity for our economic future. The combination of rapid population growth over the last decade and more, and the data revolution that's now upon us, combine to make this an especially important priority for this region. Secondly, the Board of Trade is laser focused on turning around our lagging productivity, and you've heard a lot about that lately, and really to double down on business growth and competitiveness in our region. It's to ensure the prosperity of this region endures. Today's announcement is a long time coming, with the Ontario government commitment to a third transmission line for Toronto, reflecting years of technical analysis and planning, as it should be. But both the minister and IESO deserve a lot of credit for recognizing what's at stake and acting with what I might call deliberate urgency. Our region needs to be a North American magnet for business and investment, and that can't happen without sufficient infrastructure for energy. Energy security is really a paramount consideration when it comes to deciding where to locate your next business or expand your operations. And we have really a rapidly expanding energy needs, as the mayor has recounted and as the minister has recounted. The AI revolution, proliferating data centers, are ravenous energy consumers. GO Transit electrification alone will demand equivalent of powering the city of Kingston. Electric vehicle adoption is accelerating demand. Today also speaks to the unique moment that we're facing right now. At a time when our economy is under threat from south of the border, our energy policy and industrial policy are converging. While this provincial government has made energy a top priority, and at the same time, the federal government is focusing finally on talking about Canada as an energy superpower. All these things are coming together. And the good news is the energy supply chain is deeply embedded in this province. Lots of well-paying jobs. Projects like this represent a huge opportunity for Ontario to reinvest in itself and in our long-term prosperity. The investment required is substantial, but the transmission line is more than infrastructure. It's really the foundation for growth, resiliency, and prosperity that will really define Toronto's competitive edge for the next generation. Thank you.
Good morning, everyone. Thank you, Minister Lecce, Mayor Chow, and Parliamentary Assistant Smith for your support for this important electricity planning process and the IESO's work to meet the City of Toronto's growing needs. I also want to thank Giles for your support and work in business development and enhancing competitiveness across Toronto. Demand for electricity in Ontario is growing rapidly, and in Toronto it's growing even faster. In fact, electricity demand in Toronto is expected to double by 2050. This is an incredible amount of growth for the city that calls for attention and action. To help meet demand, we are looking at new infrastructure, including transmission supply options announced today, as well as other complementary options such as local generation and energy efficiency programs. I'm happy to be here to highlight the robust public engagement process that is key to the development of Toronto's electricity plan. Meaningful engagement is core to this work. Input from residents, from businesses, Indigenous and municipal leaders are necessary to shape a plan that reflects communities today and that will meet the needs of future generations. Since launching public engagement in early 2024, we've hosted webinars and heard from hundreds of Torontonians. These discussions have given us a better understanding of how the city is growing. As part of our process, we will continue to provide information about our inputs and findings every step of the way. Looking ahead, we'll host 2 more public webinars in July and September. These will provide opportunities to discuss the transmission supply options announced today, alongside traditional complementary options, and to gather feedback that will be considered as part of our recommendations to the Minister in August. We've also launched a dedicated website, poweringgta.ca, to provide more information on our planning process for Toronto. And public feedback is just one way that we'll gather input. We are also committed to continuing to engage directly with city staff and elected officials, with Indigenous communities and the broader energy sector, to ensure that their perspectives are reflected in the work that we're doing. Together, these efforts reflect our commitment to bring together the many voices and perspectives essential to chart a reliable and affordable shared energy future for Toronto. Thank you, and I'll invite Minister Lecce back to the podium.
We will now open up the floor to questions from the media. Please plan up behind me and state your name and outlet. As a reminder, it's 1 question, 1 follow-up. We'll start with our first reporter.
Good morning.
Hi, good morning. Alan Carter from City News. A question for both the Minister and for the Mayor.
Sure.
The timeline on consultation here is the end of August. I just heard about a webinar that's going to take place after that. How possibly can you consult with First Nations and other stakeholders and the City of Toronto meaningfully in that short of a time?
So the consultation started a year ago. The head of the Independent Electricity Systems Operator has actually made clear that this process has actually been very positive, working closely with municipal leaders, council, Indigenous leaders, and of course businesses. So really for the past 12 months, we've laid the groundwork for now the system operator to make a recommendation, because we need to drive growth in the economy. What we're trying to do is plan ahead. For too long, governments in this province plan based on short-term political cycles, 4-year, 10-year cycles. We want a generational lens to securing power. We want to be proactive. We want to be collaborative. And that's the basis of why we need an integrated energy plan. It is the missing ingredient of our long-term success as a province. So we're laying the foundation for Ontario's energy security and economic growth by having this plan in place. We're going to be releasing it this June. This is one component of that broad vision of proactive long-term transmission planning. Because look, the former Liberals, just let me drive a contrast. When they were empowered, they didn't plan ahead. The consequence is they had to build a natural gas peak generator downtown Toronto because they didn't have transmission capacity for the downtown core. We are planning with a long-term horizon, consulting well in advance, but thinking ahead to secure the most affordable and efficient route. And that's why we feel like we've done the work. But I do want to turn to Leslie at the ISO, because she has, her team at the Independent Electricity Systems has done this work for the past 12 months, and maybe she can speak a bit more about the meaningful consultation that's been done to date.
Thanks very much, Minister, and thank you for the question. So we've been working since 2024, early 2024, to gather the input and to have those meaningful interactions with folks who will benefit from this plan, to learn from City of Toronto staff, from constituents and stakeholders, Indigenous communities, about what this opportunity means for them. We are also taking as input all of the aggressive and informed policy decisions that the City of Toronto has made around its green standard, green building standard, electrification plans, etc. And so in July, we will finalize the intake of that input to our recommended route based on one of the three options we've considered. In September, we will add to that the discussion of more complementary actions such as local generation and conservation and other options that will be the more near-term solution set. So those two webinars are meant to be distinct opportunities for residents, for stakeholders, for city staff, for Indigenous communities to provide us additional input.
I guess just to the mayor, I mean, I'm hearing from City Council, I mean, they're hearing about this morning, and you're talking about a consultation and consensus by the end of the summer. Is that realistic?
I had an announcement together with former Minister Smith, and that was about a year ago. And so the consultation actually started a while ago. And the City of Toronto have been on record several times of the need to phase out the Portland's Energy Center, the gas plant, because of its polluting nature. And it is also limiting our capacity to build more density on the Minisink Island. So the sooner the decision is made about this transition line, because there's three options, the better it is. The faster we could begin that building, and the sooner we could phase out this highly polluting gas plant, which we need right now. So there's really not a lot of time to waste. We need to act. We need the energy. The city is growing. Even if there is an economic downturn, it does not seem that it's impacting the city. People are coming to the city. We are a global beacon of hope for newcomers. They are arriving. So we're growing. We're building. We have a very ambitious target in building more affordable housing, building more public transit. Most of it is electric, and really investing in high-tech, AI. All of that takes enormous amount of energy and power. So we need to build, and there are at least two more council meetings in June and July before summer arrives. And we'll look at which options, and we'll participate and pick an option that, the public would pick, but we'll take a look. And this is a joint effort between the province and the City of Toronto, and we'll they're taking the leadership on it, and we're thankful that the emission line will be built.
Morning, Lane Harrison, CBC News. For Minister Lecce first, you spoke about the minimizing land use impacts of this new transmission line. I mean, what more assurance can you give to people who might be looking at this morning and saying, oh, there might be a new piece of electricity infrastructure in my area? What assurance can you give to them about that minimized land use impact? What does that look like?
Well, we were looking at, for two of them, is using the existing corridors that already have transmission built in. The third option would be submarine, which would be underwater. But the sort of guiding principle is we need to build for the future to secure economic growth for the province. Toronto is the beacon of so much of this growth. People are moving here. Businesses want to come here. And our Premier, who of course, as you know, is very proud of this city, he wants us to plan for long-term economic prosperity. That can be the achievement of how we secure energy is by building transmission so that we never, ever does one of the mayor's economic development officers have to deny an investor from building a job-creating investment here in Toronto. We want more housing. This investment secures 285,000 additional homes in the city of Toronto because we're actually bringing the power to where our needs are. We have to secure this by 2035 to 2040. That's a sweet spot that we're moving towards. So by starting today, unlike governments of the past, scrambling with last-minute options, we're looking ahead. We've been consulting for over a year. We've been partnering with folks on the ground to get this right. So that proactivity is a strength, but we are fully committed to respecting the voices of Torontonians. It's why they're going to continue to have another opportunity to have a say this summer, leading into a final decision in August. But the bottom line is we want to minimize land use because, of course, land is both expensive for the ratepayer and it has impacts on families or businesses who may already be here. But remember, 2 of the 3 options are existing corridors. The third option is underwater, which of course ostensibly wouldn't probably impact many landowners in the city of Toronto. So either way, we get it. We appreciate the importance of minimizing impacts and maximizing the economic value for Toronto over the long term.
Great. And then for the mayor, just on another topic, I was hoping we could just get you to react to the shooting that happened in the city last evening.
Oh, my condolence to the families and loved ones of those that have been shot, especially the one person that have unfortunately passed away. The Toronto Police have been briefing my office, and they are actively investigating the situation. You noticed yesterday I announced a summer safety plan, and as school lets out, when the weather gets warm, we want to make sure young people have a chance to be engaged in activities. So we have 3,000 young people that will be engaged in activities, whether with different youth programs. We are increasing our drop-ins at community centers by 50%. We are working hard to mentor young people, find good role models for them, so that we can keep the community safer.
Hi there, Natalie Johnson, CTV News. Question for the minister. Sir, are you comfortable voting for Bill 5 without the amendments that the government promised?
Well, obviously, if the amendments aren't proceeding, that's because of political obstruction by the opposition, which is regretful because the amendments were trying to make codify the duty to consult. It is my hope that we can sort of move beyond the games of Parliament and go back to focusing on what this bill is designed to do, which is get this country's clean energy economy moving. If we don't move with a bias of action, a sense of urgency in this post-Trump moment, then we are literally signing up. We are permitting, we are enabling countries like China and Iran and Russia to win the day. Like, it's actually very binary. There's 2 roads for the world. Either dependable democracies with the highest standards of human rights, labor, and environmental protection, or rogue autocrats that win the day. I want to believe most Canadians, sensible, reasonable, pragmatic Canadians, from the federal Liberal Prime Minister to the Democratic Premier of British Columbia, to the PC Premier of this province, if they could agree on one thing, it's we got to move. We are the slowest in the world, the second slowest to be accurate, in the OECD. 10 out of 10 in Canada of subnational jurisdiction to attract mining investment. Like, let's move on. Let's get on with it. We've been talking about the Ring of Fire for my entire life. Nearly, which the mayor finds that comical. That's almost 4 decades, Mayor. That's 40 years. Like, at what point do we sort of accept a premise? We've got to move on with the talk and with an actual plan. Now, our commitment is to respect the Constitution, to fully, legally, morally consult and uphold our obligations under the Constitution to the duty to consult. That isn't a complete commitment we're making. But it would be regretful if they impede our ability to further codify our commitment to consult. But the government's intention is we got to move forward with the bill because we've got to move forward with a plan to get our clean energy economy moving. And every EV, every one of the cars you all drove here today that may be from electric vehicle, I can guarantee you 100% of the minerals in your EV came from China. So if you're okay with that, and literally the Chinese owning, operating, and effectively creating great havoc in nations in Africa or Indonesia, then you can sit at the sidelines and accept the premise that the status quo is working. But no one thinks that's the case in the economy, the workforce, or skilled labor. Everyone has come out asking for an aggressive posture on resource development. And our Premier's been leading, talking about national energy corridors, transmission corridors, pipelines to get this east-west economy moving. The first bill we introduced was to eradicate every interprovincial trade barrier to add $200 billion of economic value to Canada. So that is a comprehensive vision to secure our future, independent of President Trump. He's here. One day he will not be here. So then how do we create a self-reliant long-term economy so that our kids could get good jobs and compete with the best in the world? That's by getting legislation passed, one project, one process, accelerates the timelines, and does it in partnership. And I'll just say, and to conclude, everything we've done in this ministry, I'll speak for just the energy mines, every transmission corridor we built in the province, without exception, certainly under our government, has been done with 50-50 equity partnership with Indigenous communities. And we are proud of that achievement. The overwhelming majority of our battery projects, equity partner participation. And to further incent more ownership initiated by Indigenous, we put $3 billion on the table in the budget so that they can buy in and own the very resources projects we're talking about. And I think that is the ultimate demonstration of partnership and collaboration. But we also understand when we build the regulations, I know Minister Fedeli, who's working on the special economic zones, for example, that the consultation will be so important to keep listening as they build out that action plan. And that's what we've committed to doing today.
Thank you.
Hi, Ben Cohen, Toronto Star.
Hey, Ben.
Do you have an estimated cost for this project?
Those details I think will emerge in August when the proposals come to us, the routes get finalized. I can just simply say we're going to be looking at the most efficient, effective option that minimizes impacts on residents and maximizes the economic benefit for Ontario. There's a cost of inaction too, but look, transmission is not inexpensive. We get that. That's why we're starting early. That's why we started this process over a year ago. It's why we're we're committing with the IESO a detailed action plan for those options and a final recommendation by effectively end of August. So if we don't move today, if we don't secure this power for the next decade or two, then we're going to be literally denying investment to the province in housing, and that just seems so offensive to the people of Toronto who want more jobs, more affordable housing, more transit, more electrification of industry. And that's the Premier's commitment, to grow our economy and do it with affordable, reliable, clean power.
Can you go over some of the pros and cons of each of the three options?
I will turn to the system operator for perspective on that. I think ultimately the city and the people will render a judgment on this, but I'll turn to them to walk us through them.
Yeah, thank you. I'm thinking that each of these options is one that meets the needs of the city. And as Minister Lecce described, we're looking to build the most technically feasible, cost-effective, quickest, least impactful way we can. And so, in terms of the options and pros and cons, I would say that work is still underway as we are, sorting out the technical feasibility of each of these. I will say two of them, as the minister indicated, are using existing transmission corridors, so minimal land use issues. Both of the overland options start and end in existing transformer stations, so they would obviously need to be expanded to accept the additional lines and additional power. One of the options has an underground segment that we're considering. Of course, that will be feasibility and cost evaluated over the next little while. And the third option is the underwater option that would come into the downtown core here, again, through an existing transmission station on this side. And so I wouldn't say there are defined pros and cons of all, but we will look at all of those technically feasible and impact issues with each one of them. And our recommendation in August will be grounded in that and grounded in the input that we receive from all of the engagement that we're doing.
Thank you.
That concludes our press conference. Thank you, everyone, for coming.
Okay. Thank you all. Thanks so much.